Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really crucial part of Hints for Happiness, and we're tackling a heavy but incredibly important topic. We're talking about how to navigate the intense, often completely silent pressures of midlife, and maybe more importantly, how we can actually transform those profound hardships into genuine personal growth. To kick things off, we really need to ask ourselves a pretty urgent question. How can we prevent the tragedy of middle-aged despair? Because when you look at the very real struggles middle-aged men are facing today, the stakes literally couldn't be higher. If we just ignore it, the compounding stress of this stage of life can lead to some absolutely tragic outcomes, including extreme despair or even suicide. But don't worry, the source material tackles this head-on, throwing us a very pragmatic and philosophical lifeline. So here's our roadmap for today. Number 1, the crises of middle-aged men. 2, restructuring household finances. 3, discarding pride. 4, the wife's role and the home. And finally, number 5, soul-forging trials. All right, part 1, crisis of middle-aged men. The author objectively lays out 3 main triggers that are pushing middle-aged men right to the absolute brink. First up, work struggles. We're talking about hitting a career dead end where the pressure just keeps mounting, but advancement totally stalls out. Second is illness, which often shows up as a physical breakdown caused entirely by all that intense workplace stress. And third, the terrifying burden of debt. The text points out something fascinating, though a bit dark. You see, while a physical illness might actually give you a temporary break from despair while you recover in a hospital bed, debt is relentless. It just compounds the work and health issues, creating this feeling of totally inescapable pressure. So what do? Let's move to part 2, restructuring household finances. The text makes it clear we have to start treating our household finances exactly like a corporate balance sheet. The absolutely crucial point here is to objectively evaluate the right side versus the left side of your ledger. You've got to balance the incoming money against the outgoings, and you have to do it with zero illusions. I know, it sounds super simple, right? Like elementary school math. But the text notes that when people are backed into a corner, they often completely fail to do this. You really have to look at your current outflows versus your current salary and critically map out your future expected costs against what you can realistically expect to earn. If it doesn't balance, well, something has to change immediately. That brings us to part 3, discarding pride. To actually pull off that financial restructuring, the text emphasizes a seriously tough personal step. You have to drop your ego. There is an incredibly powerful contrast here between the danger of maintaining vanity and the absolute safety of accepting reality. Survival often means letting go of your pride. The advice is super specific. If you're financially strained, you literally cannot hold on to expensive foreign cars. You've got to stop buying high-priced jewelry, like diamond rings, just to keep up appearances. It might even mean pulling your kids out of elite private schools and moving them to public schools. You have to strip away the unnecessary luxury items and just accept your actual financial reality, even if it really stings your pride. Taking that a step further, a man has to objectively assess his own professional limits. The text advises taking a hard look at your career and calmly realizing, hey, I might not make it to executive management. I might just be a regular employee for the rest of my life. And the most important part of this whole realization? Sitting down and having an honest, calm conversation with your spouse about it. You need to ask, can we actually live on this income? And if not, what's our game plan? It is all about discarding the fantasy of who you thought you'd be so you can save the reality of who you actually are. Which naturally shifts our focus to part 4, wife's role and home. The author points out a deeply tragic dynamic happening in a lot of households. Men often suffer these completely silent failures at work. In today's hyper-competitive environment, a man might be failing to reach his potential, maybe getting reprimanded or just feeling entirely lost. But his family, they have no idea. His salary gets directly deposited into the bank, and he becomes almost like a ghost in his own house. Because he can't articulate these workplace defeats, he brings this hidden chain of social stress straight into the living room. And that can often manifest as a completely withdrawn attitude or just unexplained frustration. Because of this, the text offers an incredibly powerful piece of advice for spouses. It asks partners to try and deeply understand this unexpressed exhaustion. Instead of demanding more or, getting angry that he isn't advancing faster up the corporate ladder, a spouse should consciously try to transform the home into a sanctuary. By making the home a genuine place of rest, you actively remove his stress rather than acting as yet another source of pressure. Surviving the modern workplace, it's a total team effort.
Finally, let's look at part 5, soul forging trials.
This is where we see how all of this builds into the author's overarching philosophical framework. Instead of looking at debt or physical illness or a stagnating career as just pure, senseless tragedy, the text asks us to completely reframe them. It introduces this amazing concept of soul-forging trials. Basically, this is the perspective that these periods of severe misfortune and sadness aren't just bad things happening to you. Instead, they're essential spiritual exercises. They are designed specifically to expand your character, your resilience, and your internal capacity as a human being. And this is where the message gets truly transformative. The source outlines very specific benefits to hitting rock bottom. First, it expands your internal vessel. It gives you a much greater capacity for tolerance. It fosters a deep, genuine empathy for the suffering of others, simply because you've now been there yourself. The text notes that before experiencing hardship, people are often super quick to point out everybody else's flaws. But passing through the absolute bottom of life's sorrows, that strips away that judgmental attitude. It replaces it with a profound, genuine gentleness. You finally truly understand the complex emotional pain of human failure. This builds right into the ultimate, uplifting message of this entire philosophy. Your deepest sadness, your most humiliating professional defeats, your terrifying financial struggles, these are exactly the tools that allow you to truly connect with and understand other people. Without passing through these trials, your character kind of remains shallow, but with them, your empathy becomes absolutely boundless. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final vital thought. The pressures of midlife, the financial strains, those brutal hits to our pride, they are completely inevitable. But how we frame them, well, that's entirely up to us. When you face your next insurmountable challenge, will you let it break you into despair, or will you use it to expand your capacity for kindness, objectively face your reality, and let it forge your soul?